right, everybody. I have a great guest today, and I actually have been with her in a room that is this is not just virtual or anything else. I have been a witness of her magic at events, and because of that, I thought for the Founders Path podcast, I would bring her on to discuss her founder journey because she's in the middle of one as well. And then kind of some of the things that some of the founders should be watching out for as they build their businesses. So I'm welcoming her, and this is Seema Desai. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you so much, Valerie, for having me on. This is so exciting.
And I said nice to meet you. Actually, nice to have you on my show.
Yes,
I
yes.
already know
The
you.
listeners, though, this was an introduction, so you weren't incorrect.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. But thank you for being on the show. I think the listeners are going to get a lot from this. And so usually I just say, tell us a little about your journey, and then we'll talk about your business and what's going on and how you came to build your business first. Let's start
Yeah.
there.
Well, I think, I read a post on LinkedIn yesterday from a friend of mine who said they called themselves an accidental entrepreneur.
I feel that way.
100%. If I were to say, describe your professional journey, that's the most concise way I could do it.
Hmm.
Wholly accidental. I grew up, my dad owned his own auto repair shop. He was a blue collar immigrant. He and my mom came here from India before I was born, but they came here on a work visa. He did, and she, came on a spouse visa and no education. Uh, and so he worked on on cars, on transmissions, and then opened his own when I was very young. I barely remember that, but I would watch him, and I wanted nothing to do with being in business. Nothing. It seemed inordinately stressful, um, and I never could understand why. And it didn't seem glamorous. Now, part of it was a transmission repair shop, so it wasn't like it was beautiful and glamorous, although very much needed. It didn't really spark joy or curiosity in what it would look like for me to own a business, combined with, we're Indian, we come from a very patriarchal society. And so the narrative about what a woman can and cannot do absolutely kind of was in the water, I
Yeah.
guess you would say. My I remember the narrative growing up, it's like, well, yeah, it's just so hilarious now that as an adult, going back and looking at it, like, you have to
Yeah.
accomplish all of this stuff. You got to do all this stuff, but you also have to be a good wife and a good mom and stay
Oh,
at home.
yeah.
That meant translate, stay at home and do all the things. And so it's like, well, how is it that you do both? And so just, it never made sense to me.
Ah.
Um, anyway, so,
Remind me of my Barbie quote from that one.
ah,
Keep going.
right? That movie was so good. Um, Gold. And so anyway, I wound up taking the path that was almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
The running joke for South Asians is you have three choices: doctor, lawyer, engineer. And so I picked the one that made me throw up the least. Um, and I think there was a real drive to want to help people.
Mm.
But I grew up, even though my parents were blue collar, I grew up with a lot of physicians around.
Yeah.
Their friends were all in small town Texas, so we had no family, but the other very few Indian families that were there, and they were physicians. And so I would see this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the badge of honor was, oh, I can't even go to a party without being called, like, oh my goodness, and look at my Tiffany earrings and look at my flashy car and let me,
Uh-huh.
all it was just so much about show and working hard and grinding out and having that title be lorded over, not
Mm.
necessarily by the people that held them per se, But
Hmm.
I know that's how my family interpreted it. Maybe it was a less than like, oh, we're not good enough, we're not educated enough, we're not this, we're not that.
Mm.
Anyway, all that to say, I decided to try to correct that for myself.
Nice.
Went to dental school because I thought that that would offer the most work-life balance compared to
Uh-huh.
being a physician. And it was also my way of quote unquote rebelling against, won't do exactly what you say, but anyway. Um, so I practiced for years and was deeply unhappy and not aware that I was unhappy. And it was manifesting in really weird ways.
Yeah.
I remember flipping out at the lady, like a fellow customer, at the grocery store deli.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she, we got into it, and I'm not a confrontational person, but I remember
I
her
was gonna say
saying,
I can't see you as a confrontational person.
no, I'm not.
At least
In
I didn't
fact,
know that side of you.
yeah, no, well, I didn't either. And I think that's what's so scary is when you live a life that is not um, intentionally yours. That is the cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the cost. And we don't see it, we don't know it. So, and oftentimes when we're paying that cost, we're not aware of it either until somebody else from outside says, like, are you aware?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was my kind of my first recollection of like something's off, but I couldn't quite attribute it to that. Anyway, long
Yeah.
story short, started to show up in my parenting. Was a very angry mother.
Uh-huh.
Felt a lot of guilt, couldn't look at myself in the mirror, and had everything, everything. We had the title, the job, the house, the husband, the kids, like had the fancy cars and the fancy vacations and the designer bag, and it just felt like a farce.
Yeah.
And I was angry and repeating generational traumatic cycles that I had experienced as a kid. Now I'm here as the parent,
Yeah.
putting my own kids through this, and I thought, I can't do this. There's no way. So really, I would feel like my hard run into that reality is what was kind of the inflection point into, okay, if not this, then what?
Yeah. And I think in founding businesses, you run into that inflection point on a regular basis. And if you are following some kind of not you, as you put it, it wasn't you, um, when the work starts to happen, and let's make no bones, work is work, right? You're going to have work. You're not going to love every moment of every day of it, the whole Simon Sinek why, it's like I'll never work a day in my life. And I'm like, I know a lot. My daughter is an artist and she quit painting because it got to be too much work and she loved it. And I'm
Yes.
going, it is work. And so, but there is points where finances aren't working out well, or you're not getting enough leads, or you're not closing enough business, or the business side of the fence always enters into the scene at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it enters into the scene, if it is something that you weren't doing for your parents, your friends, your family, or whatever, it was really what you really aligned with, then you're able to more traverse getting through it
Right.
than not. But you learned some techniques too for that, and because that's kind of what you kind of got into. So I want to hear that story too, your techniques with that.
Yeah. Well, the I think the eye-opening thing about this is the world isn't what we perceive it to be. It's a reflection of our own inner world. There's a more eloquent way to say that. I know at least two or three ways I've read that are far more eloquent than what I just tried to jumble out there. But the world is a mirror of our inner world.
Yeah.
And so I think that just even in recognizing and considering that and what that, if that were true, what does that mean for me? What does that show me? It was that exploration and the agency that comes with that. You
Yeah.
choose to look in the mirror. You choose to look at it with curiosity or look at it with judgment. Um,
Yeah.
and so, long story short, I basically was just trying to grasp it. Okay, what is it that I'm looking for here?
Hmm.
And when I always tell people it's like setting your GPS. We set we set our destinations according to a map that is not ours,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So in my case, it was be a doctor, earn lots of money. This is what a subservient wife, and good mother looks like.
Barbie.
Barbie, perfect, yeah, and all the time, Barbie, everything. And so, but realizing like, okay, what is it that I want? And
Yeah.
when I started really honestly giving myself permission to put it all down, not overnight, slowly over time. And I will tell you, I had the gift of having the pandemic. I know that was a really hard time for people.
Yeah.
And not to say that it wasn't challenging for us, but we were in a spot where we could slow down and turn inward as a family. And I could do that work individually and have the effect and benefit of that work come into my family and how I parented, how I showed up with my husband, and then how he in turn would show up with his patients when he would go see them.
Yeah.
It was just so remarkable. And I literally, when people ask me, how did you go from being a dentist to being a speaker and a coach and an author and all of these things?
Hmm.
Honestly, I tell people I just chose joy every single day in the smallest of ways, whether that was I'm going to choose to have coffee today outside, or I'm going to take a walk because I feel like it, or I'm going to read this book because it looks interesting to me.
Yeah.
That in combination with really being um, insistent upon
Hmm.
self-reflection and where in life I was showing up as a judge. This is good,
Hmm.
this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. This is
Yep.
the only way this is.
Yeah.
When I learned to hold multiple truths at one time,
Yeah.
really magic started to happen. And so I know that sounds really intangible, but really that's the
No,
most.
it doesn't because, one of the things that I say to people when I'm working through even just basically setting their businesses up, right, is
Yeah.
there is your truth, there is the ICP's truth, and there is the truth.
Hmm.
Who knows in that spectrum? So if you're going to actually solve a need and a challenge, instead of being feature benefit vomit led, meaning here's my product, want to buy, versus here's your challenge, I can maybe solve some of that challenge with what this is and etc. And aligning solving that challenge. It's for business foundations, that's very important what you just said.
Yeah.
Being able to hold more than one truth
Hmm.
because your ideal end customers all hold more than one truth.
Right. Right.
It's game changing. And I love that you said your how you feel on the inside. And now I'm dumbing this down to Valerie. Inside, that is your world outside.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Right. Right.
and I'll probably drop that in as one of the quotes from you, not me, because that was such an amazing quote, But I'd have to rewind to say it exactly,
Yeah,
but it
I
was,
mean, and
yeah,
I wish I could attribute it to the original person of thought. It wasn't mine originally. It's certainly borrowed very much,
yeah.
but I think that it's very, it's an astute observation, Valerie, because people often will show up in their businesses and say, well, this isn't working. And
Hmm.
you have to say, okay, well, what isn't working?
Yeah,
Tell me what it looks like for you to say, oh, this is working.
yeah,
And digging into that and that's where kind of like the six whys are important. Well, okay, why do you feel that way? Well, why is it this, that, the other? And I th even for me, my goal at the end of every day is to be the most regulated, nervous system regulated person in the conversation, or at least one of them, connected to my joy, right?
connected to your joy.
Connected to my joy and compassion. is my goal because I know from learned experience and quantum physics and a whole host of other things that I've learned, coaching, a lot of spiritual science as well. If we can do that, then we can allow opportunities to come to us and see through a more accurate lens the capital T truth, right? What it
Yeah.
is rather than what we think it is.
Yeah.
And that's often the fastest way forward is just acceptance of what is so we can make a more informed decision instead of making it out of fear or scarcity or anything else.
Yeah, because those intrusive thoughts happen,
Yeah.
right? And it's that it becomes this sort of self-loathing behavior that it is. I can't do it. It was funny, as simple as, and I will want you to take us through a day in your life, but as
Sure.
simple as I'm sitting there I'm sitting there with a service technician that is serving me. This is not my business. They're not my, and I sat and I listened, and you were talking about compassion and stuff like that. And I sat and I listened, and this person had been in poverty and and was trying to climb out of poverty, you
Mm.
know. And as they were trying to climb out of poverty, this person was citing different people on YouTube and different ways that they say that you can do this. And one of the things that they brought up is that wealthy people don't spend their own money.
Mm.
And that was something very foreign to her. And if anybody really wants to understand that kind of thought process, it isn't that they're not in debt. Nobody said they weren't in debt.
Right. Right.
And the hard part is kind of knowing the inflection point of when to take on debt. And I'll have to go back to this person and give them the book Rich Dad Poor Dad from
Oh,
Robert
so good.
Kiyosaki. And the reason that is so important in the business mindset is when you're trying to get to your capital T, right, in your business and in an inflection point, you're going to have a moment where um, you might not feel comfortable and you might be judging on the wrong way. And that's what was apparent with this was and this person actually ended up sobbing because it boiled down to a couple of things that she had not understood about
Mm.
money and about business. And of course, with the people I work with, I'm thinking they all understand money, but most of them don't understand money. And I'm not talking about, all the wealth brokers that say go, but fundamentally your business plan should be on the foundation of how to work money and keep cash flow coming in, or your business plan goes nowhere, right? And
Right.
and because of that fear. So you brought up the fear, FEAR, that fear came into play of I don't know how to do money. And it was
Mm.
like, oh man, let's set up a lemonade stand. One cup with this and one cup with this, then is this and this. And they were like, it's that simple. And I'm like, it really is. You end up with people talking circles around you and I'm guilty of talking circles because I understand my vocabulary, but the capital T is understanding the communication of what the truth is, you know. And if
Right.
I can't communicate it, then I can't communicate it right to that
Right.
person, and
Right.
it just needs to be digested in. But that is beautiful. I love the capital T, and I love that you can get to the bottom of all that. So yeah, keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. I mean, really, truly, and I feel like I'm constantly building. And I will also say, of course, it doesn't feel good. You mentioned it doesn't feel good. It's not
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah, of course not. Because even when you have the moment of clarity, oh, what I want is to feel at peace,
Yes.
fulfillment, whatever, whatever that is defined for you as an individual.
Yeah.
The world will come in and you're constantly, incessantly bombarded with messages that are fear-based, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't, with AI is a great example. Is your AI working for you? So not only now am I worried about as a 40-something-year-old woman, oh, am I using AI properly? Do I know how to use AI? How do I use AI? Am I using, like, there's this whole thing with Chat GPT and Claude and, which
Yeah.
one and where
Which
your information
one?
is safe and, you know, data, safety. And now you're saying, okay, so with that, do I need another AI software? Do I need to pay another monthly subscription for it? And so that's just one example of you set up your business, and it's not as simple as a lemonade stand in that conceptually, yes, but there are real distractors,
Yeah.
right? You need beyond just a laptop and an internet connection and a business plan and a mission and all of those
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Now it's like well, do I hire an assistant or do I not? Do I need can I use AI as my assistant? Do I need an AI software driven CRM? Do I like talk to me about websites? Like there's and you look at it, the rabbit hole is never ending. Now you have a website. Oh, is it SEO optimized? Well, yesterday's SEO isn't the same as today's SEO. Well, are
Hmm.
you are you looking at are you using AI to optimize your SEO? Like it just is incessant. And so it's very easy to fall to these little metrics of oh, look over here, look at these numbers, look at your click rate, look at your
Yeah, it's
literally
the deluge of information. It's crazy.
absolutely. I can't even think straight
Yeah.
when I think about all the ways I could look.
Yeah.
And it distracts you from working from a place of joy with purpose and compassion for
Yeah.
what it is that you want to serve the world. Instead, you're like, I'm not making enough money. Oh, I looked at Valerie's LinkedIn and it seems like she's really killing it. And I'm on the other hand, I just suck, right?
The hasty comparison.
Oh,
We always compare our worst self against somebody else's best self on social
right.
media. And now it's
Absolutely.
Terminator against Terminator. You can't even tell if it's true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The comparatitis is out of control.
I love that.
Out of control.
Comparatitis.
Yeah. Uh, it's out of control. And we're told like, well, if you are successful as a founder, that means that not only have you founded this company, but you're scaling, you're developing more products, you're expanding into either a brick and mortar or you're creating, it's always more, 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 more
Hmm.
without really any reason. And so we just, of course, our brains are wired to follow shortcomings because that, evolutionarily speaking, is how we're wired to stay safe. When if we could
Yeah.
spot a risk, we could spot a threat, that's how we would avoid it. If we're outcast, if we're the only ones not jumping on the AI bandwagon or the podcasting bandwagon, then must mean that I, as a founder, am doing something wrong. Or
Yeah.
if I'm not scaling, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm not succeeding as a founder. Well, who says?
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. So you're taking it from the emotional. What I liked is the ability to help people. And when I saw you do this before, help them just kind of connect to the calmness that it needs to be. It
Right.
doesn't need to be. Marketing has done a great job at FOMO.
Yes.
And the reality is that's not a recent event.
Right.
Human beings do that all the time. It's called master manipulation. And
Mhm.
it's if you don't do this right now, you're going to miss out. And then you have this anxiety level that goes clear up here, and somehow you're worth less because you didn't try this latest, greatest tool. And it's interesting because when I'm working either as a fractional CCO or a CEO, the first thing I go in and sometimes I'll coach these small businesses, and first thing I'll do is say, okay, tam sam sum. And they're like, what's a tam sam sum? And some who are in go to market, that's fine. But it's like, as soon as they start laying down how big the market is, how big the
Mhm.
thing is, it seems to slow time for them.
Mm.
Tomorrow, they have to, it becomes doable. By the end of the exercise, so you
Mhm.
say, okay, here's your total addressable, here's your blah, blah, blah. Then when they move into the next phase, it is, okay, how many times can you repeat the thing? And a lot of them were like, well, I need to identify my ICP. And I'm like, your client cares about the widget only so much as it solves a problem.
Right.
And you're in business because it solves a problem more than one time over and over again, right?
Right.
And
Right.
because of that, you're having a lot of anxiety that if you have not enough phone calls, not enough appointments, not enough of these things, it is because you didn't really connect with what it needs to be to begin with. So, just like athletes, you connect with a goal at the very end. I want to run a mile. Let's say it's a mile.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to start looking up what the fastest times are for miles. Then I'm going to look up routines of what I need to do to get faster at running a mile. And then I'm going to mark down how often they do those routines to run a mile, and
Mhm.
then faster and faster. And then I'm going to mark it down and I'm going to look back at it and see if I'm improving in little sprints, like
Mhm.
software sprints or whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. And so your goal at the end becomes you feel so light and lifted because it feels achievable instead of biting off, like you said, digital this, digital that, this, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I'm comparing and I'm comparing and I'm comparing and I'm comparing and I'm going nowhere and I chase the shiny object. And it's stopping that madness, that feeling of chasing
Right.
to never ever win or achieve or never feel good about yourself
Right.
because that could just be I want to eat the right meal 3 times a week,
Right. Right.
it's.
Yeah. And honestly, this is where I will almost push back, not push back. That's not quite the
You're
right
fine.
word.
You can say it.
No, but I mean, it's not reflective of what I'm trying to say here.
Okay.
I would say achievability is important. And it doesn't actually matter what you think is achievable, not you meaning the fractional person, but as the business owner.
Yeah.
Because you know what? At the end of the day, I'm limited by my own beliefs. And guess who's running the show if I haven't cultivated self-awareness?
Yeah.
My ego. My ego
True.
doesn't believe in my own greatness at all.
Yes.
So what I'm finding is it's not that we don't know how to make decisions and cut through the noise.
Okay.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
That is part of it. Let's acknowledge that that is an influence in our
I would
reality.
acknowledge that it is a tool that can be used.
Yes,
That
it's a
is,
thing, right?
it's a
It's
thing. Yeah.
however you want to categorize it. It is absolutely a skill.
Yeah.
Let's say that. Um, what I find is that the issue isn't the decisions they're making, it's how they are making these decisions. And here's what I mean by that. Think of it like cooking.
Hmm.
If I were to say to you, I'm going to cook a beautiful 5-star French meal, and I am a Michelin star chef, okay? And I go into this kitchen and it's beautifully set up, it's organized, it's clean. I've got the best of the best tools. And I go to open my fridge.
Hmm.
And instead, instead of fresh ingredients that are farm to table, what I find is a bunch of canned goods and Mexican spices or Indian spices or what have you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't care how beautiful your kitchen is or how
Hmm.
sharp your knife is or, your own knowledge and expertise as to how to execute. If you're cooking with ingredients that are not the right ones,
Hmm.
You are not going to be successful in cooking this beautiful five-star meal. And that's what we do as business owners. We have this grand vision. And I believe most of us were really compassionate.
Yeah.
Founders, especially, my God, you have done the courageous act of saying, you know what, I've got something to offer in this world. And it matters to me that it gets out there.
Yeah.
Except for we're making these decisions about how we talk about our work, who we talk about our work with, who we onboard, what systems we put in place, our work
Hmm.
hours, our products, all of them are, I'm not going to say this is unequivocally true all the time, but for many of us, myself included, we're making decisions from a dysregulated nervous system. So this is where I feel like the biggest shortcomings were for us when they were training us to become doctors is helping us understand how to make decisions so that we can actually create better outcomes
Yeah.
clinically, but then, there's a leadership component too.
Yeah.
I mean, super basic neuroscience, many of us have likely come across this concept, right? If you are dysregulated, what does that look like? You are thinking in fear, anxiety, scarcity, you're feeling pressure, you're
Hmm.
white knuckling your way to something.
Hmm.
And there is a narrative that we're often unaware of that we're
Yeah.
not good enough, we're going to fail, nobody's going to want what we have to offer, we're going to be hungry on the streets,
Oh, yeah.
any
Definitely.
number of those things.
Yeah.
And so when we make those decisions, we're cooking with crap ingredients.
Yeah.
However, what I love getting to help, people do is to learn to pick quality ingredients. How do we regulate our nervous systems to where our critical thinking skills come back online?
Hmm.
Our bodies then, as a result, are bathing in restorative, feel-good hormones that help us optimize not only decision making, but also turn on the parts of our brains that are responsible for integrating intuition.
Yeah.
Like that is such a big piece for me, is it's one thing to have experience and knowledge, but intuition works on faith. It works
Yeah.
on trust. If faith has I don't want to get off the track here, but it can mean many things to many different people. And I don't want this to be confining to a particular religious framework. It's
Yeah.
not at all what I mean. I mean that there's just something about it, a gut feeling, listening
A
to your
gut
heart,
feeling. Yes.
right? Integrating those two things to be true at the same time. How do I work from that place of now I'm thinking, okay, how can I be of service? Is answering this email at 8 p.m. tonight actually going to impact me? Or am I doing it because I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out on an opportunity? If that's the case, that's your cue to step back, take a breath. Like,
She's
breath is
talking
huge
to
for
me.
me.
She's talking to me.
I'm talking to me too. These are constant reminders
I
for
know.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
It is. Oh, keep
yeah.
going. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it sounds like fluff, but to people, I know it did for me. But the data that we have on hand suggests that, making decisions from a more positive state across the board results in better outcomes. Salespeople who are more optimistic outperform their pessimistic counterparts by over half.
They do. Yeah,
Students
yeah.
do better on standardized exams by 17%.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, doctors who are more positive minded, they make more accurate diagnoses 19% faster than doctors who aren't.
Yeah, they do. And we are emotional creatures that are data informed. And it makes, for me, some of my sweet spot is if I can't solve a problem or a puzzle, I will go put math to it because it lets me throw everything
Mm,
out of my mind.
mm.
And that's a hard one to say because I hate math, but it really does work. I wear a t-shirt that says 5 out of 4 people hate math, and I have a recommendation on several places that I'm the best CFO on the planet, and I am not a CFO. So there you go. But at the end of the day, what you're saying is so true because it unless you fix, and there's tons of data to support it, unless you fix that inner voice, call it the self-loathing behavior, whatever you want to call the limiting beliefs, the intrusive thoughts, yeah, you'll pick up that phone because you're on autopilot and you're
Mhm.
running from a place of fear. And I think it's founders don't have the golden parachute. They don't have all, we all say, wow, when we're hiring somebody, they've got to have Fortune 100 experience. And I laugh my head off because if you're scrappy and you're starting a business and you're hiring somebody that had all the support under the planet to get their
Mhm.
job done, and, and you say to them, I've had sales team members that go, yeah, where's my assistant? And I'm like, where's your golden parachute? Is that what you meant? I just,
I never thought of it that way. I
yeah.
never made that connection. Thank you.
Well, when you're hiring for type, not for, you see that all the time, like on job postings. It's like they have to be a CISO with 15 years of proving this, that, and the other. And I'm like, at IBM? Well, at IBM, that isn't going to help. And there's appropriateness. Sometimes that is the appropriateness. I'm not saying that it is or is not appropriate, but when you're trying to make sure that you're getting rid of the self-loathing behavior, sometimes you have an expectation, like you said, a judgment of how that even the we'll just use it, even the job curriculum should be for somebody. And
Hmm.
now with AI, some of the best talent will get filtered out before it ever even hits the market. And
Yeah.
so if we're making those judgments from a place of limiting belief, and you add AI making the judgments from a limiting belief, because AI is looking at it from very analytical lens,
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
algorithm, right? It's the entire,
It's
it's like how
absolutely
many times do humans say X in the United States? And so we'll use that word this many times. And I just, it's just amazing how much baggage. And I'm going to bring up the word forgiveness here because I think that people need to also get to a point in business, but in personal lives, of forgiveness for themselves,
yeah.
forgiveness for others, and seeing where you were talking about that judgment, seeing them as humans or seeing them as the people they are, messy, in the weeds of things sometimes, and giving sort of that grace with it.
Right.
Because if we don't, and everybody's like, well, they need to apologize or they need to do this, or you get that even in corporate culture, that employee ticked off that employee, and I'm thinking to myself, if they don't, more and more limiting and negative beliefs pile on top of it
Right.
because the story they start telling themselves is everybody owes me.
Hmm.
It's so bad. Everybody doesn't like me because they're hurting my feelings and all of these things. And so I'm sure you have a fancy word for forgiveness or a fancy story for forgiveness, but kind of letting that really go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, so many come to mind. Because again, what we think is happening and what's actually happening, rarely are they even close to the same thing.
Exactly.
And I'll just use an example just from my husband. My husband, so he is responsible for taking care of very, very, very critically ill children.
Mm,
And one of the things he would come up against when he was younger was, he's thinking, what does the patient actually need? And what do they, we don't want to incur cost that is unnecessary.
yeah. Yeah.
And so he would get really frustrated when other specialists would refer these patients that weren't actually critically ill to him. And he'd be like, he had this reputation of I'm, the one that's unwilling to work with people. I don't care about the kids because I'm not wanting to take them readily. There was a lot of ripple effect by being perceived as someone who didn't want to help the other people out, that were not accepting of the request for help. Essentially, a referral is a request for help, a
Yes.
request for, can you put your eyes on this and see what you think? What can we do to help? And
Yeah.
when we would go, I remember going back and forth, and I'll never forget the day I was talking to him about this, and we were at our kitchen island, and I said, "What do you think the people who are doing the referring, they think these kids are really sick, like on their deathbed sick, and
Mhm.
they're reaching out to you for help. What is it that you think that they're feeling?" And that was
Mm.
the first time, once he could allow himself to get off this metric of, I don't want to take
Yeah.
up resources for people, like, I don't want to take up a bed for somebody who really needs it first, in place of somebody who doesn't actually need my services. I
Yeah.
want to save the system money. I want to save the patient's money. When he
And those
could
are all
get
good things that
all
they're
great
doing,
things,
great things, but yeah.
but when you could get out of that and see the other person as a human
Mhm.
being, and I said, gosh, could you imagine having a child, like having that responsibility of a sick child on your hands, and
Yeah.
you don't have the training or the expertise that you as the specialist has?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
It is
Um,
terrifying.
and we live in a litigious society. And
I,
and and so once he had that consideration of being able to see what other people just maybe are struggling with, not
yeah.
necessarily that they are. Now, I mean, it has taken him years to kind of rebuild his reputation, but it's a night and day difference in that, okay, maybe you might wind up conceding in ways that you wouldn't normally, but you
Yeah.
can now have the runway to educate people on what to do, how to prepare. What are things that you need to know? What are things that they need to know? Sometimes it's just a matter of acknowledging an emotion like a fear or an anxiety about something, or even just misinformation. A
Yeah.
lot of people are operating on misinformation, not because it was a choice, but that's just how it was, it's just how it is. But
Yeah.
we do this as founders too.
Yeah.
And then we make it mean something about ourselves,
Yeah.
which is really funny.
The whole ghosting word is like we had the meme that went around and it was funny. I ended up on a meeting and they sent their AI note taker, and I was like, okay, I'm on this meeting and you didn't show up, but your note taker did. And I'm like, I bet you that something happened. And I'm telling this whole story, of wow, you just didn't make it. And I hope you're okay because you might be in the hospital. Because I did. I had a client, and I've used this as a story. I had a client that went radio silent on me for 2 years. And I mean, and we had been talking all the time, and then radio silent, and he didn't renew, and blah 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 blah. And he freaking found me on LinkedIn, reached out, and apologized. He had gotten in a
Mm.
motorcycle accident that he was in a coma for 2 freaking years, and he spends the time to reach out to me on LinkedIn to tell me that he's so sorry that he ghosted me. And I was like, okay, that is the ultimate story that says, listen to everybody here. Not everything is about you when when they don't show up.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's the ultimate, but it's just it's kind of a crack up. But
It
in the
is. I mean, it really is that juxtaposition of like you're literally
yeah,
in a coma. And it's
yeah.
crazy that they reached out and really, I mean, what a beautiful human being. That's incredible.
He is, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I
Yeah.
had completely, of course, moved on and finally just went, well, because people do have issues like that. And all of a sudden they're just like,
Yeah.
I had somebody who was reaching out and they're like, you haven't tested our thing. And I'm like, there's something very much going on in my life right now, and I didn't
Yeah.
have time. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah.
And but in the last couple of minutes, I know you do little exercises, things like that, that you get people to kind of
Yeah.
get out of their mind. Could we just do just a brief one? I want them to want to reach out to you because they're
Yeah,
going to need your help. And I also want to kind of close it out with, I'll close it out with how they can reach you,
sure.
easily. But yeah, give us just a sample.
Okay. Um, we make our best decisions
Mm,
from from a place of just calm and clarity. So one of the best ways to do that I is to connect with the breath.
mm,
There's a neuroscience reason, I touched on that. Um, but there's very many layers here. So the connection with yourself
mm,
is the fastest and most effective way that I have come across to date to help us get into a place where we can make better decisions. So, for those of you who are listening and have never done breath work before, and you kind of maybe have a story about it or maybe concerns about it, I work with so many overachievers, hyperachievers, people pleasers, like go to the max perfectionists. And so let me just tell you, because I've had rooms full of physicians tell me, I didn't know if I was doing it right. And I'm like, you didn't know if you were breathing right? There's not a, I mean, and so if you're listening and you're going, oh, I don't know about this, I'm here to make suggestions. You make decisions about how much you want to play along. All of this is an invitation.
yeah.
You do not have to do anything I am asking you to do to the max. There's no perfect way. And it honestly may feel really weird. Or, and if your brain doesn't understand what I'm asking you to do, that's okay. Just listen and just see what happens. This is one giant experiment. So,
Okay.
all right. If you're driving, do this later. Or you can still do it with your eyes open though.
Okay.
Um, all right. I want you guys to
I'm
put
going to
your
do
feet.
it with you, by the way.
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I invite you guys to put your feet flat on the floor. If you need to come to the edge of your seat to do that, please do so, unless, of course, you're driving. If it feels good to you, and if only if it feels safe, close your eyes. I invite you to do that. If not, you're welcome to keep them open and fixate your gaze on something in front of you. And kind of just notice how you feel as you're seated in your chair, or if you're standing, what it feels like to be grounded and with the weight on your feet. Notice that support. Notice what parts of your body are touching the chair or standing on the ground. And from that support, I'm going to ask you guys to play with what it would be like to just release your shoulders down away from your ears just a little bit. Allow your spine to grow tall, even if it's just a millimeter. Not now, but when I say, I'm going to lead you through a series of breaths. On this first round, we're going to inhale through our nose and exhale through our mouth. And with this first set of inhales, we're going to imagine that our lungs are expanding side to side, like they're trying to touch the insides of your rib cage on the right and left side. Okay. So inhaling through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time, inhaling through the nose, imagining your lungs are expanding right to left, left to right, and exhaling through the mouth. Not now, but when I say, and keeping your eyes closed, we're going to imagine that we're expanding our lungs from bottom to top. So our bellies will fill with air, if you will. Okay, so inhaling through the nose. Allow your abdomen to expand and fill your lungs bottom to top. Exhaling through the mouth. Let's do that a couple more times. Inhaling through the nose. Expanding our bellies out through the mouth. One more time. Inhaling. Allowing a gentle release and expansion of the belly out through the mouth. Not now, but when I say, we're going to inhale and imagine our lungs are trying to kiss the back of your chair. Just expand into the back parts of your lungs. Inhaling and exhaling. Taking another inhale through the nose. Imagining the backs of your lungs expanding just a little bit. Exhaling. One more time. And now we're going to put it all together. We're going to imagine that our lungs are expanding side to side, bottom to top, front to back. Inhaling through the nose. Allowing the lungs to expand in 360 degrees and exhaling through the mouth. Again, inhaling through the nose. Just allowing whatever parts of your lungs to open and out. We're going to do that a couple more times, inhaling through the nose. Inhaling ease. Exhaling what doesn't serve you. I'm going to go quiet for just a moment and let you do this on your own, keeping your eyes closed. And when you're ready, I'm going to count you guys out backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently wiggle your fingers and toes. Flutter your eyes open if they are closed.
I need my nap. You're amazing. You're amazing. Okay, where can they get a hold of you? That was amazing. I feel great right now.
Yeah, you can find me on my website. It's drseemadesai.com, which I'm sure everything will be in the show notes as well.
Yep.
I'm also on LinkedIn and I'm on Instagram, but not quite as active as LinkedIn. So you can reach out to me either through LinkedIn or my website, and I would be honored to connect.
All right, you guys, you have it. Another great episode from the Founder's Path podcast. And I hope that you will like, subscribe, and love it. And go connect with Seema today. Trust me, it's always an amazing experience. Thank you for being on the show, Seema.
My goodness. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so grateful for the time.